everyone, welcome back to the BVTV channel, and today we have an epic lore video for it. It's going to be the Oni, and you guys already know how this works. We basically talk about it, try to see if it's kind of realistic, and if we should have any type of feelings toward it. So, let's get straight into it, folks. The Oni's backstory, here we go. Honoring his family name was never enough for Kazan Yamaoka. He wanted to surpass his father's reputation and end what he saw as the thing of samurai culture, with farmers often posing as samurai. His father tried to turn Kazan's attention to more noble pursuits, but Kazan refused to heed his advice. Basically, as what most kids do. I mean, that's basically, we don't really listen to our parents when we're teenagers. We think we know the world, and we always think we're right. So I can kind of see where this is already going. There's always kind of a nasty turn that happens. Anyway, continuing on with the story, basically, Kazan refused to heed the advice, and he actually borrowed his father's katana. He embarked on a dark pilgrimage to prove his worth and rid Japan of imposters. Ignoring the code that had been taught to him, Kazan killed imposters in the hills and the valleys, and even on the beaches. Heck, even in woodland. Wow, this guy was nuts. Anyway, the killings were brutal, cruel, and morbid. He humiliated farmers and warriors alike, yanking off their top knots and stripping them of their armor. Wow, that's kind of nastily mean. His rage, bloodlust, and perverse sense of honor knew no bounds. I was like trying to read that word, and I was like, what? Monks believed he was possessed by something dark and otherworldly and cursed him, while a noble lord began to call him Oni Yamaoka, the rageful samurai, an insult both to Kazan and his family. Yikes. Determined to redeem his family name, Kazan now butchered anyone who dared call him Oni Yamaoka. See, now I think this is a bit too far. This is a bit far-fetched. The man was killing people. I get the idea, but I think brutalizing people and killing them is kind of messed up. It's very uncalled for. This is wrong, and I feel like the heavy people and the monks were right to call him Oni Yamaoka, including the noble lord. These guys murdering farmers who are just, acting. Basically acting. It's what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's brutal. He basically, the insult confused them, to be honest. I mean, to be fair, I think the insult would confuse me too. And like, how could anyone, call him that? I mean, he basically purified the samurai class by ridding the land of imposters. That's basically where we were at. And he was just confused on how the fact that anyone could call him an ogre. I mean, I don't really know what the actual word Oni is. I'm maybe someone who understands. I'm not even sure where the word actually really comes from. I'm guessing Japan, but I don't really know. So if that's what it means, ogre, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, the guy is an ogre. He's evil. And he had thought, had it been because he marched onto a battlefield to cut down the fiercest warriors, had it been because he had taken a kanabo and dashed hundreds of skulls with it, oh my goodness. Damn. You really just, come on, Oni. Like, really? The problem is that this violence is unneeded, and as I'm reading the story to you guys, and also adding a couple words by myself here, just to make it more relatable, or this more in-depth, it's uncalled for. It's really just uncalled for. Anyway, before I go on a rant, let's continue on with the story. Or had it been because he felt a need to secure a trophy from his victims? It didn't matter. Being called an ogre was more than he could bear, and an ominous voice in his head urged him to strike down the lord who desecrated his name. Now, I think this is where we shouldn't do this. This is where we should not do this. As Kazan made for the Lord's town, he suddenly found himself face to face with a samurai standing on a dirt road blocking his way. Kazan readied his kanabo. Without a word, the samurai attacked and quickly secured the upper hand, but he hesitated. With a devastating blow, Kazan crushed the samurai's head and cracked his helmet. As Kazan approached the fallen samurai, he saw his father's face. It staggered back to his haunches. Yes. His father stared at Kazan with mingled shame and regret as he issued his last breath. Kazan closed his eyes and screamed in agony until he could scream no more. He opened his eyes again. His father was gone. Not only had he killed his father, but he allowed the thieves to steal his body for armor. Wow. Truthfully, I'm actually kind of like, you reap what you sow. I mean, you struck down anybody, and it just, I feel bad for the father. I do. I mean, his son's killing the family name, literally killing, like, no pun intended, butchering the family name. He's killing innocent people who have not posed any harm to him. Any harm to him, by the way. He's murdering people. He's a murderer. And he's sitting here And then because he was so high and mighty, now just killed his father. He butchered he didn't even give him a chance. He just literally just decimated him. And now the guy feels bad. I have no positive bone in my body for the Oni. I don't. It's disgusting what he's done. Truthfully, it is. But I feel bad for the family. The family of who tried to raise him, who tried to teach him what was right and wrong, and for that one evil seed, or bad apple, there you go, it's a bit of a bad apple, to do what he's done. And then to even murder the father it's wild to me. It's such a sickening and disgusting thing to happen, and it's tragic too. Not for the Oni, but for the father. It's tragic. Anyway, before I keep going on these rants, let's continue with the story. Bitter and lost. Bitter, lost, and disillusioned, sorry about that, Kazan roamed the land aimlessly with his father's voice rattling in his head, taunting him, reminding him of his failures, sending him off into fits of uncontrollable black rage. One day, walking towards Kazan happened, or I guess, basically, I think Debbie had a miscue here, stumbled upon an Oni statue. He stopped and stood motionless for a long moment. The weather and the overgrown statue seemed to be ridiculing him, accusing him of being the imposter samurai he had so desperately sought to destroy. Kazan shook the laughing voice out of his head and half remembered the lord who ridiculed him as Oni Yamaoka. With renewed anger, Kazan journeyed to a town high up in the snowy mountains where the lord resided. A dozen samurai met Kazan at the gates of the town. As you guys can tell, I'm pretty sure this is where the downfall of the Oni happens. I'm pretty sure. A dozen samurai fell to his kanabo. His speed and strength were unmatched. His rage was incomprehensible. Covered in blood and gore, Kazan battled through the town and soon found the lord hiding in a villa. He dragged him out of a cabinet, sliced his tendons to immobilize him, and watched him beg and squirm like a dog. Without hesitation, he thrust his fist into the lord's mouth and yanked out the wicked tongue that desecrated his name. Jeez, my goodness. Okay, man, that's a little bit brutal. I mean, yeah, again, you reap what you sow, what goes around comes around, I guess. Wow. It's kind of hardcore now that I really think about it. Anyway, continuing on. Satisfied, Kazan exited the villa to find himself surrounded by dozens of farmers wielding rusted scythes, sharp pitchforks, and heavy clubs. He survived the first few assaults, but there were too many attackers coming from every direction. Yes, as I mentioned, the downfall. Within moments, Kazan was on the ground staring at a cold, indifferent, darkening sky as farmers took turns stabbing and torturing the Oni who had butchered their beloved lord. The frenzied mob dragged Kazan to a small stone mill to continue the torture and finally let him die a slow, painful, and agonizing death. When they returned, the mill was filled with a strange black fog, cough cough the entity, and Kazan's body and kanabo were nowhere to be found. It was the beginning of a dark legend about a rageful Oni haunting the town. See, this is where it actually becomes kind of perplexing. The Oni as a whole was hell-bent on doing the right thing, and in that process, did everything wrong. No compassion, no heart, no sympathy. There was no caring bone in the body. And when he finally made the mistake, it killed one of his own kin. And anything of hope to get that kid on the right track basically disintegrated. I mean, it's a truly harrowing story about one bad thing. One tragic thing can really make a person snap. And I want you guys to think about that for a minute. Truthfully. It's a harrowing thing, and I don't think, even in reality, we don't really realize that. One small thing can make a person snap. I want to take a little bit of a long pause there, because it truly is something that is so horrific and horrifying that I think it really needs to be brought to attention. I feel like the Oni does a great job explaining that. Of someone, a young guy trying to make a name and do the right thing and surpass anyone's expectations of him, to be something different, go on a different path. And it got him nowhere. Stoned, tortured, because he had no remorse, no sympathy. And if there's one thing I can say, always have sympathy. Now, this was kind of a rant, but I think a very meaningful one. Anyway, folks, what do you guys think about the Oni? Do you have any sympathy? Do you feel for him? or do you feel he was completely wrong? Me personally, I feel like he was completely wrong. But anyway, I would love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on it. So, with that being said, comment down in the section below, hit that sub button to BVTV, and hit that like button. And as always, folks, stay off the hook.